Hi, this is Mark Adams from kingdomupgrowth.com. I've got a lot of resources on my website related to short-term missions. So if you're getting ready for a mission trip, interested in learning more about best practices for short-term mission trips, would love to have you drop by the website and see some of the resources that we've put together. You can also go down to the bottom of this video. I should have the link there where you can click that and see some other resources available. One of the things I wanted to talk about specifically today was about the practice of writing fundraising letters. And there's a lot of different ways you can go about getting funding for your mission trip, but letter writing is one way that's kind of the bread and butter approach, tried and true, that a lot of people end up using. So in thinking about writing letters for fundraising, on the front end of this conversation, I would like to dispel this myth that a lot of people kind of believe that by asking people to help you go on a mission trip, that you'll be pestering them or bothering them. And my experience has been that so many people are actually thrilled to have some small way in which they can take part in the mission work that's going on. So even for people who can't go on a trip, when they're able to give you resources that make it possible for you to go on a trip, a lot of times this is still a source of great joy for them. And the better work you do at connecting them to what you're preparing to do, what's going on while you're on the trip, and then also follow up after the trip, there's a lot of ways that they can still experience significant growth and spiritual renewal in their lives just because of the trip that you're going on. I say a lot more about that in my other video about best practices for short-term missions. Getting the most out of them. I'd encourage you to take some time and watch that video. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to walk you through a few significant things you want to include anytime you're going to send a fundraising letter. Now, to begin with, if you've never learned how to do a mail merge using Microsoft Word, this is something I would highly recommend you learn how to do. It's very easy to create an Excel sheet with, first name, last name, address, city, state, zip, and then you can use Word to automatically, you type your first letter and then it fills in the details on all the subsequent letters. There are some really nice ways you can utilize that feature to make letter writing easier. So just to begin with, that's kind of a tech recommendation that I would encourage you to learn something about, but you can still customize them all individually if you prefer to. So let me give you a few tips. I'm going to give you 5 tips about high quality fundraising letters. Tip number 1 would be to always try and make this personal. So begin with why. Begin with your personal connection to this place you're wanting to go. If possible, rather than just talking about vast multitudes of children or people, whoever it is you're trying to help, if you know something about one or two individuals that you know about especially, say something about them personally. If you've been to this place before, if your congregation has a connection to the place where you're going, let us know who it's about. Make it personal and begin with why. Here's a person whose life I hope to change. Here's the kind of person whose life was impacted the last time we made a trip like this. So tip number 1 would be to try and make it personal if at all possible. Second, and this is really crucial, make your fundraising letter clear. Make it really clear. All the details on who, what, where, how. Tell them where you're going. Tell them when you'll be there, what you'll do while you're there, how it is you plan to travel there. And beyond that, be very clear with them about what it is that you're asking for their help with. So don't be afraid in being clear on that point, that if you're asking them primarily to be praying for your trip, that God will open doors, be sure and solicit their prayers. And if what you're needing is help with fundraising, tell them exactly the amount you're trying to raise, because a lot of people will adjust their level of generosity based on what the need is. So it's one thing if you're going to go to a small trip to another part of your state to visit some community and it costs a couple of $100 as opposed to some mission trip to Africa or something that could cost up in the thousands of dollars potentially. So you need to let them know exactly what your target is, what you're trying to get to, and that helps people know kind of what they need to do in terms of their response. So make it personal, make it clear, and then this is kind of a sub point of number 2, but also make it legible. If you're writing a letter and you put everything together in this one boxed up little chunk, it's hard for your eyes to follow it. So be sure that you expand everything out, utilize the space on the page, allow some space and some breathing room in between significant points so that a person could look at your letter and with their eyes easily navigate it. I'd encourage you to have a look at the blog post. I'm going to put up some samples of good practices and how to do this versus poor practices and how to do this. But make sure your letter is very legible. And then beyond this, it is crucial that you make it as easy as possible for people to help you with this need. So if you're asking them to help you, especially with fundraising, then the thing you need to do is you need to include an envelope that is already addressed to wherever it is they're supposed to send the money. Include that self-addressed stamped envelope. You go ahead and pay for the postage, give them everything they need so that literally the only thing they would have to do is write the check, drop it in the envelope, seal it, and drop it in the mail. Make it as easy as possible because they're doing you a favor, and so you want to make this as appealing and easy an option as you possibly can for how they might help you. And I would say the fifth and most important part of all of this is that you want to make your letter grateful. In fact, you want to have a grateful disposition. And what I mean by that is not only do you want to thank them in the initial letter that you send, but part of the value in keeping that Excel database I was talking about in the first step, if you have a spreadsheet and you know every single person that you sent a letter to, if they send you any funds, you absolutely need to send them a letter and say thank you for your help, acknowledging what they've done. But I would say even more importantly, after you get back from your trip, you have got to follow up with everyone who did anything at all to help you. Even if they said, I'm sorry, I can't help you financially, but I'll commit to praying for you. You need to go ahead and send everyone who helped you in any way some kind of a letter with your takeaways from the experience. Again, give them the details. Here are some of the things we accomplished. Here are some of the lives that were touched. Here is how my life was touched, and I could not have done it without your help and your prayers. And so thank you so much for making this possible. There are a lot of great ways that we can utilize short-term missions to benefit those of us who go, certainly, but more importantly, to benefit the places we visit, but also those who are not able to go, but help to send the rest of us. And have a lot of great information about how we can get the most out of these things. Would encourage you again to take some time and look at the website, kingdomupgrowth.com. Thanks so much for the opportunity to talk to you about best practices in writing fundraising letters.